Hello everyone, I am Sirin and welcome to the art photography presentation from the artist known as Alfred Stieglitz. First of all, who is Alfred Stieglitz? Well, he's quite a legend. We refer to him as the father of art photography because he was the first to really stand up and help form a collective of people and say like, our job is to make people believe that photography can be art. He was the lover of Georgia O'Keeffe, a famous American expressionist. They both married in 1908 and produced over 350 prints of her portraits. Also, he was the modern art promoter and he helped his wife to promote her artwork. He began to develop his career in the New York City since 1890s and became involved in the American Amateur Photographer magazine as an editor. He wrote most of the articles and reviews in the magazine and was known for both his technical and his critical content. In 1897, Stieglitz joined the Camera Club of New York. Although they offered him the organization presidency, he became vice president. He began to develop programs for the club and was involved in all aspects of the organization. Then he turned the Camera Club's current newsletter into a magazine, Camera Notes, and was given full control over the new publication. Over the next 4 years, Stieglitz used Camera Notes to champion his belief in photography as an art form by including articles on art and aesthetic next to prints by some of the leading American and European photographers. In 1902, 1 year later, after he resigned from the Camera Club of New York, we have the group of American photographers led by Stieglitz and F. Hollanday, who form a purely American movement called Photo Secessionists. The group is the American counterpart to the Link Ring, which is the British Executive Photo Club. Stieglitz wanted to have an American version of the Link Ring. In the same year, the Photo Secessionist group arranged the first exhibition of American pictorial photographers. In the next 3 years, they opened the first gallery of the Little Gallery of the Photo Secession in the New York City, eventually became known as Galleries 291, because the Little Galleries of the Photo Secession was a long name to remember, and the reason number 2 is the photo secessionists abandoned the pictorialism style. Throughout 1903, Stieglitz published camera work in order to promote his gallery of the photo secession. Stieglitz's early method is he sought to gain recognition for his medium by producing effects which parallel with painting. In addition, he arranged the visual elements in a work of art. Stieglitz also used natural elements such as rain, snow, and steam in order to unify the picture as a whole. Naturalism is one of his techniques, which is a theory that the principal subject of a photo should be in sharp focus, while secondary elements should be left out of focus. The photographers often painted with gum bichromate, which allowed them to use brushes and sponges in the dark room to add texture and remove unwanted details. This technique was thought that it is the most closely similar to the way the human eye naturally sees things, in which it is focusing on one area while the details around are falling away. This kind of technique is one of the qualities of pictorialism style. Stieglitz was leading the pictorial movement because in early days, photographs were considered an advance of science, not art. Cameras were machines, and everyone knew that Machines didn't make art, people made art. Therefore, Stieglitz promoted this technique in a way to make people accept photography as an art form. Stieglitz and other pictorialists understood that a photograph was created when the camera was used as a tool, like a paintbrush was a tool. Furthermore, he advanced the art of photogravure, which is to photographically transfer an image to a metal plate and etch the image on the plate, then print from it. Photogravure and gravure prints have warm blacks and a charming range of subtle shades of gray. And this will make the reproductions are much better than the original prints. Stieglitz was so confident of the quality of these gravures, so that he occasionally sent them to be displayed at the international exhibitions of artist photographs. However, Stieglitz's idea started to shift as he abandoned the pictorialism techniques and embraced straight photography technique in his own work instead. Straight photography, or pure photography, refers to a viable alternative to pictorialism by creating symbolist image. But it is more pure form of photography than pictorialism. Photographs should be sharply focused in order to depict a scene as it appears in nature. Now, let's take a look at his best-known early work, Sunlight and Shadows Polar, which was made in 1889. This picture was reproduced by gelatin silver print. It is a photograph of a well-dressed young woman writing a letter in her own small room. The picture is a triumph of technique. Stieglitz managed to control the contrast between sun and shadow without losing the detail in the picture. The second photo is Winter Fifth Avenue, captured by a 4x5 box camera. Stieglitz interested in the technical boundaries of photography. This picture is one of his early experiments in stopping motion. The snow in this picture was also a Stieglitz experiment in atmosphere. Actually, Stieglitz stood for 3 hours in a driving blizzard to get this picture rather than use a special soft focus lens. He wanted to take straight handheld detective camera photo of real, observed moments. Moreover, Stieglitz took the huge amount of time and effort in making the final prints. In fact, the original version of this picture was so blurry, but Stieglitz focused on a portion of the negative that he felt was usable and managed to manipulate it in the darkroom until he got what he wanted. The result is a stunning photograph indeed. The third picture is the terminal. This image captured at the southern end of the Harlem streetcar line, which traveled up and down Fifth Avenue. When Stieglitz took this picture in 1893, he was interested in pictorial photography. Next is the picture called The Hand of Man. The title of this photo has two meanings. Firstly, the steam engine was a human invention that had huge impacts on the landscape and on people's lives. Secondly, this photograph was made by the hand of man because the pictorialists tried to show that they were a part of the art tradition by manipulating their photos in the dark room, using tricks and techniques that were evidence of the human hand in the process. And the soft focus effects and the romantic atmosphere were the results of handwork on the print after the film came out of the camera. This image called Spring Showers, and it is the best example of the Stieglitz naturalism technique that I have already mentioned before. In this picture, Stieglitz let the weather keep the photo's background slightly out of focus, then added to the effect when he printed the negative by keeping the area in low contrast and evenly toned. as you guys can see the delicate feeling in it. This picture is known as Flatiron Building. Well, this name was given to this image because of its shape, and it was a symbol of a new modern America. And this picture also shows that the shape of the building contrasted with the natural shape of the tree and bathed in snow and evening light. Moving on to Stieglitz's masterpiece, the steerage, in which Stieglitz claimed that I felt that if all my photographs were lost and I were represented only by the steerage. It is his first modernist picture, as it marked a turning point for Alfred Stieglitz. The atmospheric effects and limited tonal range of pictorial photographs were replaced by sharp focus everywhere, and a full range of blacks and whites in the steerage. Also new in this photo was Stieglitz's apparent belief that form and composition were the essential elements in a photograph. This picture also serves as a comment on economic divisions of society. The white gangplank that divides the picture into two parts, upper and lower, also serves as a symbolic divide for the people in the picture. Therefore, the steerage carries social and artistic importance. The photograph represents American realities at the turn of the century that were both good and bad. It represents how art has the capacity to transform how people view society and the world around them. This picture called From the Window, it was reproduced in the year 1915. It shows the nighttime scene, which was taken from the window of Stieglitz's famous avant-garde gallery. The photo is dominated by the geometric lines of New York City scape. Using the rich range of tone, the camera affords to depict the drama of the city by night. Stieglitz seemed to have taken inspiration from the recent exhibition of Cubist painters Picasso and George Braque at the 291 Gallery, which would explain his interest in the geometrical forms and lines. The picture also seems still reminiscent of pictorialism, while being more in the straight photography style. The background building is 105 Madison Avenue at the southeast corner of Madison and 30th Street, while the smaller building with the advertisements is 112 Madison Avenue. As I said earlier that Stieglitz took many Georgia O'Keeffe's pictures, and this picture is one of them. The picture also named Georgia O'Keeffe. It is a palladium print with Mercury. You can see that she is wearing an open kimono and looks directly at the camera. By the late summer in 1922, Stieglitz's idea started to change and became more spiritual, as he had created a series he called Music, a sequence of 10 clouds photographs. He intended the series to be an exploration of his changing mental state. Over the next 12 years, he would take hundreds of photographs of clouds without any reference points of location and direction. He would refer to these photographs as the equivalent. It was basically a series of photographs that he did with his huge camera. Now, why is this series important? Well, because it is probably one of the first photographic series that was based on the idea of metaphor or symbolism. And it is the first abstract photographs. There was an interview that the interviewer asked him, "Are these clowns?" Stieglitz answered that, "I don't see what that matters. So, what do they mean to you? What did they make you feel? What did they represent to you? To him, the image was a metaphor for another idea, experience, or feeling, which is why he called equivalent. Every photograph, he said, has an equivalent idea or emotion attached to it. That could be the idea or emotion you have as a photographer, or it can be the idea and emotion that the viewer brings to it. He constantly pushing the way people thought about photography and the capability of what photography could be. And now I'm going to end the presentation with his last gallery named An American Place. It was held in 1929. However, Stieglitz was told that the building that housed the room would be torn down later in the year. And he produced more than 2,500 mounted photographs over his career.